Hello, everybody, and welcome to Britball with the Breens Week 4. Now, one thing I can say this week is that Chris has only just realised that I can see him dancing when the tune's playing in the background, so it was quite funny to watch him for the last couple of weeks thinking that we could all see each other dancing and it was actually just him. So another week in the books. Last week, we're looking forward to some more games this week. At the moment, it looks like we have 14 games and one controlled scrimmage going ahead. After we just found out that one of the games has been postponed through COVID. However, first of all, we have another guest tonight. So tonight's guest is Chris Warren. Chris Warren is the general manager of the Oxford Saints, and the Oxford Saints have already played 3 games. So I think they're the only team to have done that, or one of the only teams to have done that. So it'll be nice to get some of Chris's insights into how he thinks the season has gone so far. So without further ado, we'll get him in. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening. How you guys doing?
Not too bad. Can't complain.
I didn't get to see the dancing backstage, so I was just disappointed by that. So.
I thought everybody could see it. I didn't realise it was just me.
We'll maybe end up with an outtakes series at the end of the season where someone's managed to record it in the background or something. You never know.
Yeah. Well, I hope you've had the same weather that we've had up here, because in Aberdeen it's been absolutely roasting.
Oh, it's sweltering here today.
Really.
Yeah. So, I said there, you guys have already played 3 games, and as we suspected, your division is very competitive. So, how's things going at the moment for Oxford?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to gloss over the simple fact is that we're 0-3. I think that, but the games have been competitive. I think that when we started off the season, it had been so long since you've seen any kind of competitive ball, and with no pre-season scrimmages or anything along those lines. You get into the Blitz B game down at Finsbury Park, and it just really is an eye opener, because you got so comfortable playing offense versus defense over such a long period. It's like that unknown of what another team's players might end up doing, and sort of that going from there. So it was interesting to see how long it took the rust to fall off in that regards. But that game was really competitive, and it's like one score game. And then we came back to Tilsley Park, had a fantastic game against the Hertfordshire Cheetahs. It was probably one of my favourite games as a spectator. I was in the commentary box at Tilsley, and like, even though we came away losing, there was just, I think you guys commented it on the stream last week, it's like there was red zone chances over and over again. Our defence played out of their skins, but the Hertfordshire red zone defence was just amazing. They just stopped us every time we tried to get in. So again, an enjoyable game. And then last week we had probably one of the weirdest weeks of my life leading up to a game, trying to organise something. Between, I don't care what anyone says, the England game was impacting numbers. So we had that aspect, and then we had some COVID cases come in. Then we had local guidance to say we shouldn't travel unless we were absolutely sure of it. So then we tested the entire team Saturday night, Sunday morning. And that was a fantastic job that we actually did that. It was voluntary on our part, but we found that 2 O-linemen who were going to be on the team bus actually tested positive. So not only did we almost run the risk of infecting our entire bus, the D-line of the London Hornets probably wouldn't have thanked us either for turning up to play that game either. So we went down there with a bit of not the smallest squad in the world we've ever played with, but certainly there were people playing out of position. A lot of Iron Man football happening between a few players. So I think that we held in there as long as we could. Our defence again played out of the skins. We got to the 4th quarter. It was still only a 2-score game, 12-0. But then I think eventually numbers just caught up with us, and the Hornets went away. They're a big physical side. They're going to do very well. And yeah, it's been a tough year.
I think the thing is here, Chris, is that I think first of all, you deserve every credit for actually getting that game going, because I think there are teams out there at the moment that we know COVID is an issue, and we know that everybody has to be safe, but there are teams out there that we firmly believe are just disappearing and using some of that as an excuse. Now, obviously, we can't tell for sure, but it seems to be like some of the teams have been off, and all of a sudden they're playing a lesser team this week and they're back. And you're like, So even knowing that and having to go through the testing with your whole team, and that, it's credit to your organisation that you actually got it going. And yeah, as you say, numbers, no matter what season is, numbers tend to tell in the 3rd and 4th quarter.
Yeah.
When when teams are starting to get tired, especially if it's like as hot as it is today. I mean, your team starts to struggle big time.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Chris, carry on.
No, I think the thing is, echo Sean's obviously compliments about you getting the game to go ahead and stuff like that as well. And like, I've had to do my pre-practice test myself, an hour ago, and it's not a pleasant experience anyway. But it's a necessary evil, I think, to obviously try and stave off something much worse. But yeah, I mean, you've now played three games on the bounce. And that'll have even added to it as well, with the fact that players tiring towards the end after playing 3 games on the bounce with less guys there as well. So massive compliments to getting through that game.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think that the good positive coming out of last week is that we now have a system in place that will get us through the rest of our games. I think that my gut was this time last week that the Wembley game was going to be tough because of these local restrictions. But we now have a process in place, which means that we can probably travel to that and we can probably compete in that game. And then we've got a big long break for a whole month, and hopefully things in Oxfordshire calm down after that. So
yeah.
Well,
one thing that we're saying off the chat there is that obviously it's nice to see you've got all your branded Oxford Saints kit. That's for sure.
I'm completely shameless. The club tell me this all the time. So.
It's good on you.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I think like how you're in an extremely competitive division, and I think I don't know how you feel about that. I think for a year like this, where it's about development, isn't it? It's about making sure guys are ready for next year. Do you find that as a positive? I mean, personally, I would think it would be a positive that, you're not just turning up to, a team that's maybe barely got a squad together and beating 7 Jades out of them. You have to go out and compete every single week against these teams because they're all so good. Do you find that as a positive?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if we were just rocking up against a couple of associate teams, or I don't know, up against a Prem team where we were getting wiped out, not that there's anything wrong with that, because we had that with the Bury Saints in a pre-season game years ago, and it's probably one of the best games we ever took part in. I think it absolutely helps. We've had a large turnover of players, especially on the offense, from 2019. So when the lockdown hit in 2020, we were looking good, but then lockdown happened and we lose a lot of players. So all but one of our offensive linemen have gone. We've picked up some new guys, but they need time to gel as a unit. The new quarterback needs time to gel, the running backs, everything along those lines. So to have these competitive games and to really sort of test that aspect, we've got these 4 games. We've then gone a month off, and then we've essentially got 3 home games back-to-back at Tilsley Park, which I'll say is probably the best venue in the country for American football. So we'll have what I believe to be a very strong end to the season. And essentially we've got, let's face it, 8 pre-season games this year, pre-season, a couple more pre-season games, and then 2020 walking from there.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that would be great, is that if everyone gets bedded in this year, and then you never know, some of those players that have not playing this year may reappear next year, and then you have depth at the position, and then all of a sudden the everything looks rosy again, and you go forward. But I guess now you've got a few weeks off to review game film as well, because it must have been just game, try and get film as quick as possible, film as quick as possible. So a couple of weeks to review it now should be pretty good going for you guys.
Yeah, we're going to give them a lighter practice tomorrow, because to be fair to everybody, they've been hitting heads for 3 weeks. So hot day tomorrow, slightly lighter practice, walk into Wembley next week, be competitive, and then we'll see where we are after that.
Yeah, well, we'll have a good week, and hopefully you'll give Wembley a run for their money. We've got a comment here from Steve. Now, if anybody doesn't know what this means, is that me and Chris have not been kind to the Oxford Saints, let's say, not in a bad way, but in
Steve's not blameless. Steve is not blameless. He went after my logo. He went after my website. To be fair, my website's awful, but he went after the logo, and I love it. So.
Steve's currently on holiday, so he'll be enjoying himself watching this.
But as you pointed out, though, and I have heard actually other people say this as well, like your home ground is probably the best one in British American football. So you've definitely got that going for you as well. But no, we'll be nice, you know.
Yeah, I mean Tilsley Park, just to give him a quick plug, is absolutely fantastic, and our two local university teams look like they're going to start playing there. We're going to get into closer partnerships with them, really trying to turn it into a sort of cliche away centre of excellence for American football within sort of the Thames Valley, and I hope we can go from there.
That'd be great. So we'll crack on with this just now. So as normal, I'm going to share my screen and we'll go through some of the effects of this week. So first of all, thankfully this week, as far as we can tell, there's no teams avoiding a gubbin. Which is a positive, because I believe, as I said, we distinctly believe that some teams were just avoiding a gubbing, and that is a positive. No more teams have pulled out the league entirely. However, we do have some games that have been COVID cancelled. So South Lincolnshire Lightning and the Scunthorpe Alphas, Bournemouth Bobcats and the Rushmore Knights, and just about an hour ago, the Gateshead Senators have had COVID outbreak in their camp. So they've had to cancel their game with the Darlington Steam. I heard someone was coming out of retirement this week for Gateshead, so I hope it's nothing to do with him.
Maybe Rod with him.
Yeah. One rearranged game, and kudos to these teams for getting a game rearranged, and that's Sandwell Steelers versus Crewe. Again, although Chris, you did see something kind of funny about this, did you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was maybe just a polite blame share. You know, both teams have come out saying that they had COVID issues, but I noticed that the Sandwell Steelers have a full practice this weekend, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that, whether it's just a case of they're able to take their players that had COVID out for the practice. I'm not really sure, but I thought it was a bit odd that they would be able to practice this weekend if the game wasn't able to go ahead.
Yeah, it was also big news.
I don't know whether it was a case of a bit of being polite, sort of sharing the load between the two teams as to why the game was off or not. But either way, it's been rearranged. The game will go ahead later in the season. However, that was all in amongst the announcement that the Sandwell Steelers have changed head coach. It's the second change they've made since the end of the 2019 season. That was kind of announced, I think, 2 days ago. The head coach stepping away, and they've already appointed the successor. So a bit concerning, I think. You know, when you're looking at this team it's preparing for its first ever foray into the Premier Division, and they've changed head coach twice. Slightly concerning, but they obviously feel they've got it under control. And they've got off to a decent start this season, so I'm sure they aren't too worried.
Yeah, and they're right. They're 2-0, and obviously they've played lower league teams. But after the first week, we were concerned about how many points to put in the Surge. But obviously, then they took a next step and put up a load of points on Crewe. Although I believe Crewe did themselves a good service in that game. So yeah, so we're all right this week. As I said, most of them look like they're COVID cancelled, and we can progress on. So play of the week now. For those of you haven't seen before, basically 3 plays. Chris Warren hasn't seen these before. Me and Chris have, or unless he's been running through our Twitter, you might have seen them. However, you definitely won't have seen one, so it's one we got sent. So 3 plays, we'll play them through, and then we each get a selection as to who we think is the player of the week. And the winner will get a certificate on Gridiron Hub, and a bit of a nice shout out to their team. So, I know I missed the ninth that there. I missed the shout out, not the other.
Classic.
So we'll see. Just before going, Steve just saying here, painful stuff to happen to Sandwell after such a strong 2019 season. Wish them all the best. Yeah, we do. We wish you all the best. Hopefully you can get back. So, play of the week. First one. Let me just pop this up here. Okay, so this one is number 23, Alex McLaughlin. I'm guessing that's how you say it. That's how we say it up here.
Yeah. I think the Spartans corrected the name of his surname, but I don't have it on me.
This is his 83-yard run, and it's a bit of a cracker. So let me just play this through.
Yeah, so this was against the Sussex Thunderbolts team.
Thunderbolts. To the house.
Fair amount of speed once he got through the line there. Just turn on the jets. No east-west running, just pure north-south.
Mm.
You gotta love it.
Yeah, and one thing I really like about this, right? This hole is not open. Watch this. Okay, this original hole is not open. It is closed.
Yeah,
he has a vision. Yeah, he has a vision to bounce outside. Then he runs through two wannabe tacklers, and then sprints off for a massive touchdown. So that's a cracking play right there. Grant's put up this. It seems like there's an awful lot of these coming out, by the way. Another Caesars junior graduate. Yeah, he rushed for. He actually put in 2 TD selections this week, and we actually liked this one better purely because of what I've just explained there. Yeah. So, cracking play from Alex there. The next one is.
It certainly seems like either everyone that plays ball across the UK is either an ex-Cheetah or an ex-Caesar. So, this seems to be getting everywhere.
That's great for the game. It is really good for the game. Like, there's nothing that people go to other teams all the time, but for graduates that potentially move away and make a difference to other teams, it's great. Yeah. So this one here is in super slow-mo. And it's honestly, if you won't be able to hear it, but we can. But if you get the chance to watch it, because someone on the sidelines is like, no.
Watching this with sound on makes it just so much better. It is magnificent that it is in super slow mo.
So
I believe this was the last play of the half. The Doncaster Mustangs going for a field goal, and they used the term blocked. However, I do believe somebody asked if it was still counted as a block if it got spannered straight off your face. So, but hey, it counts in the stats column, and it went the other way for a touchdown. So I count it as a block. I'll let his teammates rip him on that one.
In fairness, it looks like a fairly lengthy field goal attempt here, but I'll show you what happened. So. He comes up for the kick. Oh! Straight to the face. The DN. I think it's the DN picks this up, is it? Did they say that in the post?
It looks like it.
Yeah.
DN picks up and runs it all the way to the house. But honestly. It cannons off this guy's face. Absolutely cannons off it.
I mean, you don't want to take anything away from him, but I'm not convinced that kick was ever being good.
It might have been a slow riser. He was going for the power. But poor guy, honestly, I don't know. This guy gets it straight off the noggin. Boom. But again, take him on for the team. It ends up with a touchdown.
Yeah, you can't argue with that, can you? You can't argue with the result. So I've just seen my wife has just walked into the living room. She's watching the show, and I think she might actually keel over. She's struggling to breathe at the moment.
The last one is far from funny. It is an extremely good play. So this is another special team. So 2 special teams. Last week we had 1 defense. We've had a couple of offense, and obviously this week we've got 2 special teams. So this is the last one here. And can I just say, this is a pretty big punt.
Yeah, decent backed up as well.
Oh, nice cut. Oh, he's got the edge. He's got the edge. Oh no, he looks like, oh no.
No, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's we talked about the north south run in the Essex touchdown, but there was a lot of east west there, but it was beautifully done.
Yeah.
Great return. As they from a pretty decent punt as well.
Yeah, it's a great return, and I mean here at this point here, it looks like it's pretty well covered. But a couple of steps in, and he changes direction, and as I say, the rest is history. He runs around the outside of this guy on the outside. Outside contain, man. Outside contain. But the little spin move at the end to go in the end zone just gives that one a little bit of flair. So I'll let you guys select first. Chris, you're the guest, so you can have first selection.
So I mean, just on the ball to the face and the return for the touchdown, I'm afraid our 2 point the 2 points we lost against Hertfordshire is just still too real in the brain. I just
yeah.
So unfortunately, I can't be doing with special team turnovers like that. That's just not going to happen. I did like Alex's run. I thought the north-south was great, especially bouncing to the outside. But in my coaching time, not that I'm coaching at the moment, I was a special teams coordinator. I'm a special teams geek. And I've got to say that return looks absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to give that my vote.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. As I say, liked all three plays. I thought they were really good. It's a strong showing of some of the stuff Britball can do, but I think we're going to struggle to see many plays better than that punt return all year. To be honest, he looks like he's trapped one way. He gets all the way back to the other side of the field, and then the cut inside and the extra push to get to the end zone. I loved everything about it. So yeah, the punt return for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd say, like, as someone who's played a fair bit of running back in the past, like, that patience and that burst of speed through was excellent. The cannon to the face had me laughing for hours. But I don't think I think we're right. I think it's a clean sweep here. I think that return play. Now, we don't know who it is, so if you know who that is from Wembley Stallions,
comments, please. Let us
comment
know.
And hit us up. Get him tagged, because we'll send them out as a wee certificate and notice. And as I said, at the end of the season, we'll put them all the best from the weeks together and pick a play of the year, and that one will most certainly be in contention, I would think. Righty ho. Oh, what's Steve saying? I know. Let me check.
He doesn't.
He knows who it is. I'm thinking, what do you know?
I knew.
So Steve.
Did that game finish 7-6? That was a winning touchdown then as well? Wasn't
no,
it?
It wasn't. It was 19-6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Wembley's first two games have been 19-7 and 19-6. So we're hoping for 19 points again the next game as well. Just to keep the run going.
Now, one thing that we'll not be nasty about this because we are Scots, but one thing I'm expecting a lot of this weekend is some hard hitting because of last weekend. Now, I think there'll be some frustrations on the field this weekend, so it could be very interesting week. So, I'll wait for Steve to see if he knows who it is, but we'll start cracking on with this. So we have a game of the week this week, as normal, and this week's game of the week is no shock. It is the Merseyside Nighthawks versus the Manchester Titans. Now I'll let you guys go first, and Chris, my brother, I'll let you go first for this one, and then Chris, you can go after, and I'll go at the end because I do know some little things about this game. Who we got? Who we thinking, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, the Manchester Titans came out in week 1 against Lancashire and showed no mercy, despite the fact they were rotating in every single player on their roster at one point. It was brutal. They're going to be, I think, there was a lot of comments on social media following the Halton forfeit. I think they're going to be a little bit hacked off. Oh, there we go. So Samuel Fraser, number 20 from the Stallions, on that punt return. So congratulations on your play of the week, Samuel. So I think there's going to be a lot of frustration within the Titans camp. This is sort of a Manchester Merseyside thing, and we all know how competitive that is in sport and how the rivalry goes there as well. Merseyside, we had someone talking a bit of smack to us about our lack of knowledge on Merseyside before they played Chester, and we'll show you sort of thing. And then they won the game 49-40, and I'll be honest, I was slightly unimpressed. Like offensively, 49 points, unreal. Like they just like with the Merseyside, we've kind of come to know, like they just score points. That's what they do. They score points in bucket loads. But from a team that only managed one offensive touchdown against Halton the week before to then put 40 points, I am extremely concerned with this defense against that Manchester Titans offense. I might be wrong, and I really hope this is a really tight game. I'd love it to be like a 55-54 shootout. It's what we're all hoping for. But I think the Manchester Titans should win it.
Yeah, Chris?
Yeah, I've got to go down the same route. I think that I can't say whether Chester overperformed and Merseyside underperformed, whichever way that went. But just the fallout of that Lancashire game from the Titans is just phenomenal. They're rotating everybody in. And fair play to Lancashire, they didn't want to go on the running clock. They wanted to keep people going. They want to get the rotations in. But then Manchester would have gone through their entire depth chart and kept scoring and kept them out. It looks brutal. So, I mean, my gut is this isn't even going to be close. I think this is I'm probably feeding into the breaking news that Sean's going to give us any second, but yeah, I mean one of our players, is an ex-Titan. I've admired them from afar for years, and yeah, I think Manchester are just going to walk this.
Yeah, and so there's a few things here now. You're right, Manchester. I believe by the fourth drive, against Lancashire had swapped everybody out and then by 4 drives. So I think except for maybe their QB, but I think even he was subbed out pretty quick. So they just put up points at will. And having spoken to some of them, I believe that their offensive line depth is crazy. And well, it looked when I watched the highlights, it looked crazy. You couldn't tell like there was a weakness. Like just one big guy went out, another huge guy came in, and it was just one after another. So. Now, they put up a load of points against Lancashire, which really they should be doing, but 83-0 is obviously a big scoreline. However, again, Merseyside, if rumours are right, and I know the guy commented last week saying, I don't believe everything you see on the internet, but apparently they lost a lot of their DB core. Now, judging by the scoreline last week, that would stand up, like the Romans managed to put up points. Now, I know it was 940 or whatever it was, but I believe that it was actually they had a much bigger lead into the last like so many minutes of the game. But even then, if Chester are still putting up 26 points, then it's still a lot of points to concede, considering that Halton only conceded one 6-point conversion from Chester. Now Chester might have went up in the ranks. Now, I mean, I looked at these photographs because that's basically all we have. Both teams, Chester and Merseyside, have massive offensive linemen. They're huge. Chris, you'd be unbelievably jealous if you didn't also have a massive O-line. So these guys are monstrous, and they're not just 5 of them either. So in the trenches, I think on offense, Merseyside may well compete with Manchester's D-line. However, they also have an absolute machine at wide receiver, who seems to have appeared on the scene, and I believe scored multiple touchdowns for them against Chester Romans. And there's loads of photos of what looks like amazing catches from him. So Manchester will have to be wary of him. They have 10 or so Halton players, I've been told, from the 2019 season on the Merseyside Nighthawks roster. But Manchester the same. Manchester have so much depth. They have an unbelievable amount of linemen. They have a really good DB core. They have really good wide receivers. I've seen a post at pre-season that said they had 35 wide receivers at training, which is just ridiculous. As most Division 2 teams that. So I can see this being a high-scoring game. I can't see this being a defensive shutout. I can see that these teams put up a lot of points. And I think it'll be pretty even through the first quarter or so. But I think after that, Manchester may rack up some points in this game. I think in the predictions, I put 53, 34 or something like that. So it will be it should be a really good game either way. And it will really settle who the king in that division is. and it should have a huge impact on our power rankings, because we never did any power rankings this week because nothing changed. So there was no point. But this one, along with some other games this week, could have a decent impact on them. Okay, so that's our game of the week. So I can stop sharing the screen now. So on to the rest of the games. Now, the first one here, I'm going to go first and this is quite a good one. So the Cambridgeshire Cats versus the Norwich Devils. Now, the Cambridgeshire Cats are coming off a win 21-0 against the Colchester Gladiators, who some people had said looked decent and looked like they would be a good challenge to the Cats this year. From my point of view, I think the Cats will win every game this year. They were extremely good in 2019, made it all the way to the playoffs, pushed teams in the playoffs, and really got beat by a team that ended up going all the way. So I think it's going to be really interesting. However, because Norwich look like they have a massive squad. Now, I actually pointed out to Chris a couple of weeks ago when this Game Day Live was on and stuff like that, I seen a photo from Norwich's game and it looked like they had a lot of people on the sidelines. So it could be interesting. The Cats tend to be, I think, out physical most teams in their division in 2019. And when they come up against the Hornets, the one team they lost, the Hornets are a big physical team. So if Norwich have recruited well and got some big guys in their group, you never know. But I can only see a Cambridgeshire win here. Chris?
Which one?
Warren.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I think that Cambridge, we actually came up with them in 2016, and they were the team that we played in the final, in the Div 2 final that year. And so we've sort of been tracking their trajectory as a sort of a good comparison as to where we are. They're extremely well coached, and like you said, they're very, very physical. I think I'm not sure who Norwich have played this year. I want to say it was Ooze, but it was Ooze, yeah. Okay. So I think based on knowing Ooze a bit better as well, I think that just on the comparables versus Colchester versus Ooze and what Norwich have faced and what Cambridgeshire have faced, my gut is that the Cats will probably go with this one.
Other Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cats have a big squad. They've never been that high scoring, blow you away offensive team, but they're extremely good on defense. And they're not really that, you wouldn't expect them, like as much as the 21-0 against Colchester, I was kind of like, I expected a wee bit more. I wasn't disappointed by it because that's who they are. It is that shut teams out, score a couple of touchdowns, win the game, go home. Norwich looked decent in their opening game, but I would still expect the Cats to have too much.
Yeah, so that's 3 votes for the Cats there. The next game, CB, I'll let you go first on this one.
Doncaster and Knottingley. Knottingley, I believe they lost 40-6 in the first week against Sheffield. But I believe that was pretty much the half-time score, and then there was no points in the second half. Obviously, Sheffield rotating players as well. Doncaster lost to Humber week 1, and they got pummeled by the Rams last weekend. The Rams are a good side. There's no taking away from it, but I think we were critiqued for lazy journalism by someone from Doncaster last week. So I made sure to count up what was going on in their game, and I think it was 7 turnovers, including a pick 6 and the kick 6 that was seen. And I actually highlighted the Humber game as a positive despite the loss for kind of regrouping after what had been a fairly horrendous 2019. With this game, I think this could be a really tight game. I want to pick Doncaster, but I'm going to side with the Knottingley Raiders. I think they're maybe feeling a bit more positive about themselves after the loss that Doncaster suffered at the hands of the Rams last week.
CW?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a huge amount to add. I mean, I'm not overly familiar with either of these guys, so I did look over the games that they had too far, and I came to a very similar conclusion. I think that it's a bit too close to call, and sort of went with a bit of a heart call to say I'd like to see the Raiders do well. So I just sort of want to push them over the edge.
Yeah, I think for me, it is interesting. Doncaster, I actually thought, Chris said that, I mean, it was a rough 2019. They got pummeled in the ground by almost every team. But I say they look like they recruited well. Their promotional video looked great. They looked like they had decent numbers. They said they had 47 at the first game. So, again, that's cracking numbers. So a close loss to Humber wasn't too bad. And Leeds are a good... the Yorkshire Rams are a good team. I know, it's the same place. Yorkshire Rams are a good team. But, I mean, I don't know if they're that good. That putting up that many points, I think is not great for Doncaster going in. However, not only Raiders didn't win games in 2019. Didn't win any, did they, Chris? I can't remember off the top of my head.
It might have been one.
Was it one? So and I believe that they. Yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see how they've come on. Have they improved a lot, or are they kind of the same level they were? And if they were, that's why I think the Doncaster Mustangs will take this one. But it might actually be a really close game. It might be another one like Doncaster versus Humber. So again, that would be great for Britball anyway. So 2-1 there. Next one, CW, you can go first if you know anything about these teams.
I know a lot about Sussex's setup, and I got to say, I mean, first time I've been able to say this publicly. I think this is fantastic that they've got a second team up and running. I think that you see associate teams or B teams pop up in London, you see them pop up in Manchester, you see them pop up in Birmingham. These are places with dense populations. To do this on the south coast in Brighton is fantastic, and I wish them all the well, because this is something I want to do in Oxford and hopefully do it in the near future. I mean, it's going to be tough for them. I think this is their second game, and they've only got, what is it, 3 on the calendar? I think Sussex are going to play this year.
They've now got 8. After Hastings pulled out, they rearranged it, and the Thunderbolts volunteered to play 8 games.
Sure. I mean, they obviously had a tough opener game, and that was always going to be a bit hard for them. And they're probably looking at this one and thinking they can probably win this one if they've managed to go well. So again, it would be heart over head if I went with Thunderbolts, and since I've gone with heart once already, I'm going to go with head and say I think the Sabres will probably take it. I want the Thunderbolts too, but they probably won't.
Yeah, and one thing we talked about last week, before I go on any further, Knottingley won 3 games 2019, so we're being harsh.
Apologies,
Knottingley. But yeah, the Sussex, we were asking the question last week: is the Sussex Thunderbolts a rookie team, or is it this like second, third stringers that have come down to play at that level? And it looks like it is a rookie team, which is great. Oh, we have a dog. Hello, Hunter.
Pitch interference.
Yeah, they look like it is a rookie team, which I actually like a lot better than it being a load of senior athletes that are just playing down in division. So that's great news. East Essex Sabres proved us way wrong in week 1. And I think they will have too much for the Thunderbolts again this week. So I'll go with the Sabres. Chris?
Yeah, I think that, the Sabres were well beaten by the Mavericks in 2019, and obviously we've had a long break since then. So we kind of went with the assumption, it was quite a big gap to make up that the Sabres wouldn't win that game, and they won it, and they won it convincingly as well. And they look good. They got their new uniforms for the season, and they clearly felt the whole look good, play good vibe when they went out there. When I spoke about the Thunderbolts and my what we learned this week, I spoke about how they only really kind of became a thing a couple of months ago, and someone actually pointed out they only really became a thing 2 weeks ago. That it was the team was formed, but there wasn't really a practice regiment or whatever sort of going ahead. And then they were only meant to be playing these 3 games. Hastings dropped out, and they went, you know what, we can fill the position, we can play the games. So they really started making an effort. So the fact that they were even able to step out in the field is great. I'm not, they're not going to be worried about the result. They were playing a very good Spartans team. I still think there's going to be a lot for them to work through, and I think the Sabres should be too strong for them as well.
Yeah, and they were up 2-0. Hey, take every positive you can get. You were up 2-0 against a team that got promoted, so bravo to that. Right, the next one's interesting. DC Presence versus Northumberland Vikings. Now, I thought, having played DC in the past, I wasn't sure what to expect from them, but I thought they may come back with a lot of senior players, put up a really good fight, but they were well and truly beaten week one. And Northumberland racked up a fair amount of points against Gateshead, not as much as we thought. And although I believe they were rotating, their star players were still on in the fourth quarter because they were still scoring touchdowns. So I don't know how much rotation was actually going on. I expected them to put up a lot more points against Gateshead. But again, as I said before about Gateshead, they are a go up to Division 1, don't compete, come down to Division 2, get to the playoffs and potentially the championship game, get up to Division 1, come back down. So they may have just recruited well. But as I say, we just don't know. Northumberland should be putting up a load of points against DC Presidents. Even if they're rotating, they should be putting up points. So, and their defense is excellent. So I can't see DC scoring too many here. So Northumberland is for me. CB?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of spoke about it as well. I think I was quite surprised at the scoreline with the Gateshead Northumberland game. I kind of felt like I was expecting more points. You don't know. Sorry, dog's coming back in again. You don't really know what to make out of it, but there was definitely stars still in there. Into the fourth quarter, as I say, their MVP had about 4 touchdowns.
No, dog's taking him out.
Okay. Should I take over?
It's all right. You're still going, Chris. Dog.
Yeah, but I can't hear you.
All right.
It's all right. We'll continue talking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Annoyingly, I don't have much to add to fill the void. it's one of those. I mean, on paper,
I love my dog to bits, but he's dumb. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I was quite surprised by the point scoring, as I say, with the guys still being in the game that late. And going for 2 points after every score as well, and still not sort of making that 50 mark was a bit surprising. The Presidents, we didn't know what they were. Darlington blew them away. Darlington looked like a good outfit. They looked like a decent outfit in 2019. We're unfortunate not to get that first win that year, but I was surprised at the extent that they were blown away by the steam. And I think for that reason, this could be quite a high score. We could be talking cricket.
Lots of echo. I don't know if this is joy down to the dog. Yeah, I've got very little trade in that regard. So I think on paper it looks like the Vikings are just going to destroy them. And just got to hope it's merciful.
Yeah, we shall see. Right. The next one. CB. Off you go.
I mean, Halton, fresh off of their tactical forfeit against the Manchester Titans, will be facing the Lancashire Wolverines this week. Whether they've got their full squad back or, I don't know. Hopefully they do, and hopefully they don't have to miss another game the rest of the season, but we'll wait and see. Lancashire seemed in high spirits considering the result against Manchester, but I think in many ways, rightly so. The Manchester Titans are, they were a playoff team in the Premier Division in 2019. They appear to have only got better. And yeah, it sounds weird to say an 83-0 game could possibly be positive, but I don't think it's anything to feel that negative about either. And I think they'll be feeling good going into this game. I think they'll be looking forward to it as a more competitive game, and I think Lancashire should win this.
Yeah, and Grant is stealing my thunder here. Sorry about the echo. I think Chris's dog has destroyed this.
Something, yeah.
But yes, I heard about this earlier in the week. So the Wolverines have their QB back. He's been playing abroad, so that's a huge return for them. And that is something that could be interesting. going forward. What I'm going to do, Chris, I'm just going to mute you while we're talking. So it looks like Lancashire could have him back, and they will be in a positive mood because although they took a thumping from Manchester, they dealt with it extremely well. Actually, every other team was more interested in what Manchester did to Lancashire than Lancashire were. So they will go into this game thinking it's all right. We'll go into this game, we'll rebound against Halton. And really, Halton annoyed us really last week because they pulled out. Like, let's be honest, we've seen the social media now, and they just don't want to play Manchester. Come out and say they don't want to play Manchester. Nobody would care, but I think the way they went about it was bad. But they're coming back a week back with now no problems, and they're going to now go up against Lancashire. So, but I think Lancashire's going to nick this one. CW?
Yeah, I have to praise how Lancashire handled that defeat. I think they just did it with class, and I think that the fact they didn't want to go on the running clock for a start was fantastic. They gave all their players a chance. They knew it was going to be tough, and you didn't see them bitching on social media afterwards or anything along those lines. They just handled it and they moved on. And I think they've probably taken those learnings away. And I mean, the news from Grant about that QB is just going to add fuel to the fire. I don't want to be too hard on Halton. I mean, we came close to putting out last week. But I think you probably would have learnt more by going, and you would have been maybe in a better place. Now, if it's COVID restrictions, obviously you don't want to travel, and it's absolutely fine and fantastic. I understand. But if it was, you just didn't want to take the beat down, well, Lancashire took the beat down. And I think they will come out of it stronger, and it looks like, and so I've got to side with them on this one.
Yeah, Chris, I'm just going to unmute you here, see if you can speak now.
Are you hearing an echo?
No.
It seems to
We're all good. The dog, stupid dog. Grant's in here. This is a proper divisional game as well. So if this was the 2020 conferences, these teams would be playing each other, so they have a little bit more to play for.
And on the back of that comment, I will reiterate the fact that I am still hacked off that we are being robbed of Chester Romans, Lancashire Wolverines. Still angry about it, and I'll be angry about it all year.
Yeah. So the next one, we'll let you go first on this, Chris. However, rules on this show are standard. If you don't want to talk about this game, feel free and just tell us to get lost. So this one is the London Hornets versus the Hertfordshire Cheetahs. Oh, we've lost Chris altogether now.
Oh yeah, I muted myself while I was having a drink. So I nearly said this when we were talking about the Titans and the Nighthawks. That isn't game of the week. This is game of the week. Oof. This will be a fantastic game. I think we obviously went to the Hornets, had a rough time with them last week. They are a strong, physical team. And speaking to their coaches after the game, they've had the same defensive unit now since their creation, and they are well trained, well disciplined, and are brutal. On the other side, you've got Cheetahs, which are again a class organisation, and we had a great game with them, and they've got some offensive power to them. They've got some good runners out the backfield. They've got God, I can't remember the guy's name, number 19, but he's a dangerous wide receiver in the air. And if they're going on those lines, it's going to be such a good game. It really is. Apparently, the Hornets QB that we played last week was actually second string, and the first guy was in lockdown somewhere in Colchester. If he's back, that might well change things. They had a good couple of receivers too. I've got to say, this is so tight. It's just going to be so good. It's so close to call. I'm just leaning towards the Cheetahs because I've spent more time with them on sidelines. I know their coaches. I know their players on and off. I just think that they will edge it, but it will be fantastic.
Yeah, and the receiver you're talking about won our Player of the Week in week one. Yeah. So I think is it Rowan Huggins? I want to say
Huggins. Yeah, it is. Yeah, because he's got the same surname.
And he looked like he made some catches last week as well. So he is looking like he's a bit of a player for their team. However, the poll online shows a 52% to 48% in favour of Hertfordshire, and that's interesting. Now, for me, I've actually went Hornets purely for the reason you're saying about the defence is that Wembley's defence was really good and managed to stop Hertfordshire doing very much on offence, which is saying something. So I've went with Hornets, but I think this will be a really close game. I think the only reason we didn't pick this as game of the week is we actually think it's going to be quite low scoring. So that will be interesting. But I have went with the Hornets. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, when I put together the list of the games, I highlighted 2 or 3 potential game of the weeks every week, and yeah, this was one of them. I pegged both of these teams to potentially go 8-0 this year as well. Yeah, thanks to the wife for apologising for the dog. She didn't come and get him when he interfered the first time, though. Yeah, so I like both these teams. They're both very physical. I think that entire division, your entire division, is physical defense.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the attribute across the board for all the teams. And I've went with the Hornets. The reason I've went with the Hornets is on the back of that kind of physical defense. I think I've seen the Cheetahs have kind of swapped quarterbacks every so often as well, and it just, from what the clips I've seen anyway, I've not been overly convinced by the quarterback play in some of the highlights I've seen. A lot of unnecessary turnovers. And I think if you're going to do that against a team with the defense like the London Hornets, they're going to punish you for it.
Yeah, I was reviewing the Wembley Hearts film the other day as we'd be playing Wembley coming up, and I mean the turnover count was
high,
very, very high. I have to go back to the Hearts' red zone defense against us in that fourth quarter. It was phenomenal, and there are only a few things you need to stop on the Hornets to stop that offense. So yeah, I agree. It could be a low scorer, but it's going to be great.
Yeah, nobody likes a bakery bowl. Loads of turnovers. Next one, Chris, you can go first on this one. London Blitz B versus the Wembley Stallions.
Yeah, so I believe this is the same game as last week, is it not? Yeah, this is where we're seeing our return. Again, it was a tight game, 19-6. Wembley have really, and I can honestly say I didn't know enough about Wembley before, but I think from the 2 games so far, they've really sort of put the weight on the back of their backfield and their defense. They run hard, their defense is aggressive, and that's kind of what you're seeing with the results. That kind of 19-6, 19-7 is that kind of, they don't give up much. They're not going to blow you away on the scoreboard, but you're going to have to make every single possession count. And they're going to be on the field for a long time. Certainly in that Hearts game, I felt like it was always Wembley that were on the field. Like every time I looked around, it was the Stallions in possession. They had the ball. They were running it hard, and I think that just makes them really hard to beat. And I can't see anything other than a Wembley win again this week.
Yeah, I think for this one, again, I say every week that Wembley were one of my teams that I picked out, and the only thing here is that they're obviously travelling this time. But if they manage to play at home, travel. If they manage to play at home with that game going on around the corner last week, then they shouldn't be a problem travelling. And the Blitz B will be able to take, hopefully they'll be able to take film and try and stop whatever Wembley were doing. But if it's just a powerful run game and a really good defence, then there's not too much you can do about it other than try and physically match them. So I'll stick with the Wembley Stallions here as well. Chris?
Yeah, I think I agree. I think that we haven't played Wembley yet, but from all the film that we see, I've got to agree that they're just that big and physical team, and especially with that defense. I think if I think back to our game against the Blitz B, I never got the highlights out, but you would have seen that a number of the scores that they got were off of mistakes that we made. So they were taking over the ball quite close to our goal line. There was a couple of safeties in there. Their points were sort of coming in organically, for want of a better term. So I think that if teams go to form in this regard, I can't see how London Blitz stop them. I don't think Finsbury Park offers any sort of home field advantage. Yeah, it's going to be Wembley all the way.
Okay, it's got 3 Wembley ones there. Now this next one might be interesting. Now this is Nottingham Caesars versus the Northern Knights. Now Northern Knights showed up in week 1 and gave the Caesars a game. Now the other associate team that the Northern Knights played and did really well against, Scunthorpe Alphas, also upset somebody last week. So this could be a really interesting game. Now, I've seen Grant, who's commented a few times on here, saying that coaches are going to be tested. Now, I don't know if that means that his team's going to be tested by the fact there might be players missing or whatever. However, I did hear that their QB that won the award for that pass last week was brand new. So brand new QB throwing ball like that's ridiculous, quite honestly. So if that is true, he's likely only to get better. Grant also did say to me that he just learning what his players could do is taking time. And in the second half of their game a couple of weeks ago against Lincolnshire, it just started clicking, and that's when they racked up all those points after that lightning break. So I think Nottingham Caesars will be much more comfortable this time. However, as said, with the Northern Knights, we don't know much about them except for they look like they're well run. They've got a big squad, etc. So I expect a competitive game, but I think if the Caesars are starting to click, then they might manage to put up some points here. CW?
Mute button again. Yeah, I took the Caesars as well on this one. I think that spelling. I don't know much about Northant. I've been watching them slightly since they came up from the associate level, so they are progressing well as a team, and it's good that they're really actually going, like, progressing to that point. But basically, on paper, it just looks like Nottingham will probably take them.
Yeah, Grant saying a really solid defense. I'm assuming that's Northant's. Northant's nice, Steve. Sorry.
Ants. Like
Northant.
Northant's.
Not ints. Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing going, the Caesars managed to squeak out the win in week 1. I think what will be interesting for us to see is, Scunthorpe got the win over Lincolnshire, Northant's really pushed Nottingham. I think what will be interesting to see is if that second half Nottingham Caesars is now the Caesars we see the rest of the way. They were struggling. They were actually down 13-6 to the Lincolnshire Bombers when the lightning delay hit, and then they ended up racking up 39 points in the rest of the way. So, something clearly clicked for the rest of the game now, and it's whether they carry that in. But I still think the Caesars should have enough anyway. But I'm more interested to see.
It's no for Chris. It's for me. It's for me. I'm terrible with names. Chris is actually okay.
I genuinely, I've been looking at some of the Northant Knights stuff, and certainly that they're building something there, and it looks good, and that's what we want to see from teams coming into the league. So they'll definitely be good to keep an eye on, but I am interested to see if we see the second half Caesars on the rest of the way now.
Yeah, will be interesting. The next one, usually I'll let you go first, CW. This one should be a good. On the past, there's been some decent games, but I have a feeling might be different this season. So this is the Shropshire Revolution versus the Staffordshire Surge.
Yeah, I took the Revs on this one over the Surge just from what I could see in terms of.
Goodness sakes.
Yeah, we'll get into why they're called the Caesars at some point, I'm sure.
The Britball Condiments League.
It's a better name than we've got, Tim. Yeah, no. I like Surge. I like the Rev. We've played them over the years, way back when. But like I said, I had to follow sort of the form guide on this one and just go with the Revs.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this game, the Surge, obviously, they put up certainly a strong 3 quarters against Sandwell in week 1. We did obviously see reports that they picked up a plethora of injuries in that game, and then they pulled out of the game last week. But now they're back for the Shropshire game, who obviously only got half of their first game against Leicester. Defensively, the Revolution looked good. Their offense had a fair few chances, and it was one of those. It was painful because they had a few scoring opportunities and just couldn't finish off the drives. But that was against, a highly lauded Leicester defense after watching their performance against Tamworth the week before. So, I think I feel like the Revolution are going to feel this is a great opportunity to kind of stretch their legs a little bit, or open up the tanks and just kind of let themselves go. And I can't see anything other than a Revs win.
Yeah, and I'm the same. The Revs obviously won Division 2 the year before we did, Chris, and They look like they've always had a good squad. I think their star linebacker is now one of their coaches, so maybe that's where the improvement on defense has come from. Obviously, being a GB athlete, that potentially has helped his knowledge to his players. But Staffordshire did put up a fight against Samuel a couple of weeks ago, and as you said, got loads of injuries or whatever. Not happy that they weren't able to play against Tamworth, but if they come out here and put in a good showing against Shropshire, then it potentially was just a fact that COVID was taking its toll. Shropshire are an interesting one. Last year in 2019 in the playoffs, they went to those playoffs looking really good, and didn't really put up much of a fight against Northumberland. So it will be interesting to see if they can get their offense going, even if their defense is playing at a slightly higher level this year. So that one should be a good game. Next one is a repeat fixture of what we think should have been an amazing game, but I think the Solent Thrashers may have put that thing to bed in the first game of the season. Chris?
Yeah, and I mean, I think the thing is like watching the highlights back from the game. The Thrashers' offensive line is just massive. We watched one of the running plays as well, where I believe it's their left tackle, number 74, was like 40 yards downfield, pancaking people, and I was like, a big guy. I don't think I've ever seen a big guy move that fast in British football. Like he was downfield, he was creaming guys downfield, and I think the thing that worried me was, as I say, we had that as our game of the week 1, I believe, and it just wasn't. I think the thing I found quite worrying was Solent won that game comfortably with a lot of mistakes. They had a few turnovers. I think their quarterback at one point threw a ghost fumble, which was comical to watch as well. But yeah, I'm just not as convinced this is going to be an entertaining game anymore, which is sad because I've really enjoyed some of the past matches. But Solent have a massive squad full of massive bodies, and obviously it's proper old school offense to run, but they're so big and physical up front that that they were just able to run over the Thunder, and I don't see how you can change that in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think what's interesting here is that Sussex Thunder looked like coming into the season that they got even bigger in terms of squad size, and that they were really prepared. And they might blow away every other Division 1 team. But as we said in that what we learned week 1 is Solent looked like they were ready for the Premiership. Now, one thing that we've actually spoke about this week was Solent have got this huge bodied team, and they'd run all this. What happens when they play the Olympians? And the Olympians have all the big boys on the other side of the field, and that is a hugely interesting thing for me to see, because Solent are built brilliantly, and they have come up and they've just powered over Sussex in the end. Can they do that against the Premiership teams, London boys? Don't know. We'll find out, because they've obviously got that now organised that game, which is brilliant news. Again, yeah, we're saying here that the Solent Thrashers run game is pretty incredible, and it was in the final in 2019. So I can't see past the Thrashers here.
Yeah, I have to go. I mean, we've got long history with both of these sides in recent years, and Sussex Thunder, I know Coach Ellis, he's a fantastic coach. He's running a great organisation down there, and like we said when we were talking about the Thunderbolts earlier, the recruitment's obviously been fantastic. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to split. And I know they are desperate to prove themselves as Premiership caliber teams. We haven't beaten them in forever. It's sort of a running joke whenever I bump into Coach Ellis that they just won't show any mercy to us. But then on the other side of the ball, you've got Solent, and whereas Sussex are well coached, Coach Rains at Solent can sometimes be a masterclass. I mean, I remember one game a few years ago where we had it competitive at half time. They came out in the second half, and you wouldn't have recognised him. He'd done something, and they was just a completely different team. So to take the form and the fact that there's no way I can see how Coach Ellis will be able to change things so much to turn over the 30 odd points. without Solent running through and getting some more. So,
yeah. He maybe had the Sir Alex Ferguson hairdryer treatment at halftime that time, Chris.
No, not from Steve Rains. He's far too
Very
calm. He's far
he
too
is
calm.
Spoke to him once before. He is
It's
calm.
one of those. It's the silent fear, like
Yeah,
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
I spoke to our defensive coordinator back during that game. He's now actually runs my youth team, and I just remember him looking at me in the fourth quarter and went, "Don't know. It's just it's different."
It just happened. Yeah. So it will be hopefully it'll be a good game anyway.
Yeah.
The next one's a toughie because honestly, we know very little about the Wyvern. Is it Wyverns or is it Wyverns or here I go again? I've not.
I'm probably closest, and I haven't got a clue. So
Wyverns.
Yeah.
This team we don't really know much about. If I'm totally honest. However, we did see them make improvements before lockdown. So up in 2019, they made improvements. They looked like they were getting better. However, the way that Bristol Apache came out week 1 and they thumped Torbay, now you're thinking, well, this should be an easy one. But then last week, Cornwall went and thumped Torbay. So it kind of opens up were Bristol Apache that much better, or are Torbay just not great this season? So that's going to be an interesting thing. However, I do think the Apache will have improved. I think that they will only get better from now on over the next few years. And I think they will probably have too much for Somerset. CW?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in awe of what's going on in Bristol. I really am. And if I could ever find a way to replicate that down the M4, I will. I think what they're doing around the Filton Academy and everything is fantastic. I mean, I look at this one and my immediate thought was the Simpsons meme over "Won't somebody please think of the children?" Yeah, exactly. We know nothing about Somerset. For all we know, they're going to come out strong. But my God, the Apache! I can't imagine they're not getting better and better. And yeah, and it's just they're not being fed from the Aztecs because that's unfair. But it's the whole unit. They're just being dragged up, and we've got great history with the Apache, and I would love to play them again, just to see where we are in comparison to them. But yeah, I think they win this, and they win this strong.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean the Wyverns definitely made improvements in 2019. They looked a lot better certainly than their rookie season. Apache, I kind of. Well, there you go. So a bit of familiarity there as well.
Yeah, that changes things a little bit.
Yeah, and the thing is that ultimately this is another test for them. They need to kind of, if this is a market of where they're wanting to be, because that division is pretty much the same division it was last year, give or take a team or two. The Apache have clearly improved. Obviously, Torbay kind of hoodwinked me and I'm trying not to put too much stock into the result against the Trojans, especially given the result that they then had against the Monarchs the next week. So yeah, but I do expect the Apache to win. I think they are just getting better, and obviously, that whole Bristol program is just going to keep growing as well.
Yeah. See, Aaron, if you have things like that, just send us like a DM into the Twitter so that we look like geniuses when we're discussing it.
A source tells me
that. The next game is, speaking of the Trojans. So this game, I'll let you go first on this one, Chris. CW. Trojans versus Jurassic Coast Raptors.
Yeah, I mean, we've got history with these two teams as well. I mean, two of our former players were down at Torbay until very recently. In fact, I think one still isn't, potentially even a player coach. I think if you look at the game against Cornwall, the reason why I'm always torn. The reason I'm always torn is because I do like Torbay, but the Cornwall guys had been gone through so much. That I'm happy that they've bounced back, and they've bounced back strong. So I just don't know how that sort of cross-southwest rivalry with Torbay is sort of affecting things as well. And then the Raptors, I mean, I know they pulled out of the game against Apache. Yeah, it must have been Apache a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it feels to me, because they did that with us in 2016 as well. It's like when we were on a massive roll, they didn't travel up for whatever reason. I feel like they're just a club who's struggling to still find their feet. They're through the associate process, but they just can't quite like get the players up and just the squad numbers up to sort of compete strongly. So yes, we've got two weaker sides here. I think Torbay probably are going to just take the home field advantage, better coaching, a little more established, and probably just take it.
Yeah, now, Torbay, don't get angry at me here, right? But I'm going to be a bit horrible to you, unfortunately. I seen a comment on Game Day Live, and I can't remember who it was, that said, now that Hastings are gone, who is the worst team in Britball? Now, Jurassic Coast Raptors would be my next guess, unfortunately, right? Torbay, they might give you a game this weekend, judging by those first two results. And they couldn't even field a team last week. So I think, and I'm telling you this, that I'll get this number up on this poll, see what they say on Gridiron Hub. They have 71% Torbay to win. Now, I firmly believe that Torbay will win this game, and they should win this game. So please don't let me be wrong. Jurassic Coast not fielding the team last week, nothing to do with COVID by the looks of it. It just looks like they couldn't field enough numbers, which is concerning. I know you said about the associate process there, but Jurassic Coast were one of the last teams that got into league before the associate process. So they didn't have to fill out the 35 numbers for 5 games. So we don't know if that process not having been there has been a detriment to that program. But we'll never know. They might go out there and beat Torbay this weekend, in which case I'll try and keep my mouth shut next week.
Just to jump in on that point, I mean, when we did go down there in 2016, well set up, very bunch of knowledgeable coaches and what have you. It's like I said, it just feels like they just can't get going, and it's it's going to be tough for them.
Is there a lot of teams, Chris? Is there a lot of teams down in that area that Jurassic Coast operate in?
I mean, Jurassic Coast is a very wide berth, I'd say. I mean, you've got Bournemouth, and then you go further up the coast and you start hitting Southampton and areas like that, and then you go further down and you get Torbay. It would be tough to sort of throw them into the bracket of there are too many Britball teams, and this is one of the teams that should go away and they should feed other clubs, because you could say that about Torbay maybe, but then their nearest club's Cornwall, and then you've got to drive all the way over the peninsula to get to them. These clubs are going to pop up from time to time, and I
just don't know anything about that area, so I've actually no idea if they have got any teams anywhere close to them.
They're down near the Dorchester area. I remember picking up our head coach from
There's not a lot of people in Dorchester.
Yeah, so they're down there, sort of the Dorchester Pool type area, and so I mean their catchment area will be big, but not very well populated. So
okay, yeah. Chris, have you got anything to add on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I backed the Trojans week 1 and they got blasted by the Apache. And then when it came to week 2 against the Monarchs, I gave more credit to the Apache for the whole Bristol setup and thinking that maybe the Trojans would beat the Monarchs, and then they got blasted a second week in a row. I would want to back Torbay, but as per my own personal rules, if I get a team wrong back to back, if I pick them back to back weeks and they lose, they're banned for 5 weeks. So Jurassic Coast Raptors for the win.
That rule this has got to be the worst game for that rule to kick in for you.
It's really it's sold me short here, especially with Jurassic Coast not being able to field a team last week, but rules are rules. I'm a man of my word. So Jurassic Coast, do me proud, guys. Do me proud.
If they come up and win this, you look like a hero.
Similarly, if I lose the picks league by 1 pick, Torbay, I'm coming after you because this is your fault.
Someone's saying here, Bournemouth is the closest. I'm guessing that's 40 minutes away. Coach Rains actually lives on doorstep. So so there are teams nearby that potentially, and Bournemouth are probably are good Division 1 teams. So they've obviously got a Prem team nearby and a Division 1 team nearby. So you never know. It might just be that chance of having Division 2. You're getting a bit of a shout out here, Chris.
Well, Andrew Day is our head coach, so he's helping. He's helping with the Saints brand because we're all
Nice.
legends.
I like it. So we've got one game and one controlled scrimmage left. So the last game here is the Yorkshire Rams versus Humber Warhawks. Chris, Breen, I'll let you go first in this one.
Yeah, so Humber Humber got off to a good start. They beat the Doncaster Mustangs after me picking against them in week 1, and then I picked against them in week 3 against Leeds, and they went and showed me up twice. So all credit to Humber for that. They've looked good. The start of the season. It's 2 decent wins. Like you're not going to argue with them over the quality of beating the Mustangs and beating the Leeds Bobcats. They're going to feel good about themselves going into this game. They've hurt me once, they've hurt me twice, and if they hurt me 3 times, fair play to them. But the Rams looked absolutely formidable against the Mustangs last week, and purely on that reason, even though the Mustangs decided to gift them with 7 extra possessions or 5 extra possessions and 2 scores, that's come on the back of strong Rams defense. And for that reason alone, I can't see Yorkshire losing this game.
No. Chris?
Yeah, I think that, a large proportion of my knowledge of this league comes from that Simpsons clip these guys put up. So
their social media is number 1 just now.
It really is. My God, that media one, that looking for a media manager one, was absolutely hilarious and brilliant. So back office, they've obviously got this nailed. Unfortunately, that's not going to help them on Sunday, and Rams are probably just going to walk it.
Yeah, I would think that's probably right. And what's really interesting about the Rams is that obviously the academy's up there, and their squad. We personally played them in 2019, and their squad wasn't huge. We absolutely blew them away in the first game, and then in the second game we weren't playing, but we had to watch as they won 2-0 after I think a 7-hour bus trip up the road to Aberdeen. So we know that they have a tough team because that 20 odd boys they brought up put up a fight that day and won that game. But they look like they've got much bigger numbers this year, and that will be, I think, too much for Humber here. I'm going to put up this comment here just about Torby. Lots of players from Torby left for their clubs, part of the problem. And it's something we thought, we did hear early season that some of the players had went to Cornwall, so that's an interesting one. This one's funny.
You'd go anywhere to play in that purple uni. it's absolutely sick. You know what I mean? Like, I absolutely love that new Cornwall uni that they've got. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I would say that when Torbay were getting better, that sort of thing a few years ago, is because of the exodus away from what were the Cornwall Sharks. So that comment is
that terrible
right on the money. So
that Sharks logo with a button eye does.
I must admit, for as much as I absolutely admire the Humber Warhawks social media presence at the moment, I am slightly surprised if after picking wrongly against them twice, they've not done something with my face getting hit by a dartboard or hit on a dartboard or something like that yet. But as I say, they're growing their name, and that's what they need to do, and they're doing it well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I put this comment up purely because, Adam, this is the most sensible thing you said all week. After where you put the Rams in your power rankings, shocking. So I think you're right. I think this probably will be 40 plus. Right. The last one is just a controlled scrimmage, so I'll just put it up to say who it is. So they announced earlier this week that Sheffield Giants and Leeds will be a controlled scrimmage. All for it. I'd rather that than it was cancelled. Leeds will probably learn a lot from this because judging by the first 2 games, the Sheffield Giants aren't just going to come out and destroy you and put you home with multiple players injured. So that will be interesting. See how much Leeds get out of that. Film it, honestly. Film what you're doing. Review your practice and analyse it, and it will potentially do you well for the rest of the season. So we're on to the cancelled games. Cancelled games here. Rushmoor Knights versus Bournemouth Bobcats. I would say Rushmoor did one over Bournemouth last week. Again, COVID issues there. Scunthorpe Alphas had a good win against Lincolnshire last week. Samuel Steelers and Crew and the Gateshead Senators versus Darlington. So There's a few games off again this week, but Game Day Live will still be active. So you've been doing a cracking job of updating Steve and Oz and on their show, and it's been really good to have that as something to watch on Sunday, especially if you don't have a game. We've been watching it in the car on the way back from training, etc. So
obviously the passenger, just to clarify that.
Just the passenger. Yeah, the guy driving hasn't been, just been listening. Bobbies don't pull us over. So keep putting into this because I think it is massively growing the game. Judging by what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, there's a lot of people involving themselves in this, and it's great to see. So keep hashtagging that. I've got one more comment here. I'm guessing it's going to be from Adam. It is, yeah. Blaming the sunstroke. Don't get sunstroke in the northeast. So again, this has been our fourth week. We hope you're enjoying the show. We'd like to say a big thanks for Chris for coming on. So thanks very much, Chris.
My pleasure.
And again, I will hope that in a couple of weeks' time you'll go out in the field and get that win under your belt, and hopefully see your Saints progress as the season goes on.
I've got to prove Chris wrong in something this year. So if we go 0-8, he's never going to let me forget it.
I'm not that way inclined.
No, not until next season's show.
I have no issues with the teams proving me wrong, just so long as they're not getting snarky with me in the comments. And then, as I say, like the last one last week was about our poor standard of journalism, and then getting absolutely slapped by 50 odd points is one of those moments where maybe you should spend less time commenting to us and more time focusing on your on field stuff. So but no, I'm not going to sit there and wind anyone up.
So thank you very much, guys. We will be back. We're planning on keeping it 8 o'clock, but depending on what we're doing in our personal lives and guest times, making it easier for them, we will let you know as the week goes on, but we're planning on being from 8 o'clock now on. So good luck to everybody this weekend. Hope the games are really good, and we will catch you next week.
To us.
Yeah, get your highlights to us. We'll get your certificate out soon. Catch you later, folks.
Cheers.